Bill Belichick is the best coach in the NFL. I don't think there's been any actual debate on that point in many years, but this weekend he might just find himself matching wits with the future best coach in the NFL in the Eagles' own Doug Peterson. Peterson has only been in Philadelphia for 2 seasons now, and yet despite losing his MVP caliber quarterback, his Hall of Fame left tackle, his best return man, and his game-changing young middle linebacker all over the course of this year, the Eagles just won't stop winning. Peterson has out-schemed, out-adjusted, and out-motivated almost every other coach he's faced this season, and to be honest, he's been so good in the face of adversity that I'm starting to think Philly might just win this whole damn thing. As I studied Peterson's game plan against the Vikings in the NFC Championship, I was stunned by how perfect his play calling was from start to finish. If you've been following this channel recently, you'll remember that my last 2 episodes have focused on the bad coaching decisions by Doug Marrone in Jacksonville and Steve Sarkisian in Atlanta. And I'll just say this, going from charting those disasters to charting a Doug Peterson offense was like watching an entirely different sport. Every formation, every motion, and every route concept was meticulously designed and woven together to exploit the very few weaknesses that the Vikings defense had shown on tape. And to be honest, the only thing that really held the Eagles back from scoring on every single drive was the inconsistency of Nick Foles, which I suppose was to be expected. In particular, I loved how Peterson used the run-pass option in his game plan. I'm sure if you have watched any Eagles games at all in the last month, you've probably heard that term at least 100 times, but what people might not realize is that the Eagles don't really use the run-pass option that much. It's a massively critical piece of the puzzle, yes, but it's not the only piece. They run a bunch of plays that might look like RPOs, but only a handful of them actually are RPOs. In the Vikings game in particular, out of 63 total offensive snaps, only 9 of them were true RPOs, and of those 9 RPOs, they were run out of 6 different formations. And what's most interesting to me about those RPOs is how they were used within Doug Peterson's overall offensive philosophy. All 9 of them were called between the 20 and 40 yard lines on both sides of the field. If you divide a football field into 5 sections, you've got the red zone on both sides, those sections between the 20 and 40 yard lines, and a section in the middle that stretches between both 40 yard lines. The Eagles primarily like to get aggressive and score either from the red zone or from that middle section between the 40s. As you might have guessed, that middle section is where they take most of their deep shots from. Now, 8 of those 9 RPOs came on first or second down with 6 or more yards to go. That is a relatively conservative down and distance where you pretty much just want to stay on schedule. As a play caller, you want to dial up a concept that you don't necessarily think is a home run, but you want it to reliably gain yards and have a shot to move the chains, or at least get close to moving the chains so that third down is more manageable. That's what RPOs are best at. They are safe, conservative plays that are extremely hard to outright stop, and while they don't typically gain a ton of yards, they do help to reliably move the chains. So Peterson uses these RPOs in these sections of the field between the 20 and 40 yard lines to safely move the ball into the more aggressive sections of the field, meaning the middle of the field on shot plays or the red zone. When you're watching the Super Bowl this weekend, if the Eagles are in those sections of the field and they're on early conservative downs and distances, look for those RPOs because that's probably when they're going to be used the most. And if the Patriots can slow those RPOs down at all whatsoever to keep Peterson out of the middle of the field and out of the red zone, that's when Philly might have trouble getting into their usual offensive groove. Now, from a play design perspective, here's what those RPOs are going to look like. Peterson's favorite formation in the Vikings game, and probably his most versatile formation in that game as well, was called gun flank strong, or at least that's what it's called in the terminology. I know, I'm sure Peterson's system calls it something different, but the language honestly doesn't really matter that much. It's really more about the concept itself and how it's executed. In gun flank strong, you've got the running back and the tight end on the same side of the field, which is typically the short side of the field. Peterson will flip this formation based on whatever hash mark the ball is spotted at, so whatever the shorter side of the field is, some call it the closed side or the boundary side, whatever you want to call it, that's the side that the tight end and the running back will line up on. On the open side of the field, that's where you're going to have the Z and the wide receivers in their typical boundary and slot splits. Now, what's interesting about this is that because the running back is flanking the quarterback from the strong side, that means unless it's a counter run, every run from this alignment is going to be towards the weak side of the offensive formation. That's critical because it means that any runs to the weak side are drawing the linebackers away from the tight end, Zach Ertz. Ertz is the primary receiver on the pass part of this run-pass option, so in essence, this play is all about the option between giving the ball to Jay Ajayi on a run or giving the ball to Zach Ertz on a pass based on whatever the linebackers do. The one job that Nick Foles has is to read the Mike linebacker, Eric Kendricks, in order to make that choice on the option. If Kendricks stays home and sits inside of the angle route from Ertz, that means he'll be late in pursuit to fill any potential cutback lanes, so Foles will just hand the ball off and let Ajayi do the rest. If Kendricks instead immediately tries to shoot the gap against the run, however, that vacates the middle of the field and Foles will look for Ertz on the pass. So when you think about it, this play is kind of an if-then statement. If Kendricks plays the pass, then you run it. If Kendricks plays the run, then you pass it. And by the way, Peterson put an angle route for Ertz into this concept on purpose. Angle routes are a great way to give a big-bodied receiver like Ertz inside positioning for a pass over the middle. The first part of the angle route widens the defender towards the boundary, and the wider that defender is, in this case that's Harrison Smith, the more space it gives Ertz to work back inside and get that inside leverage to box him out over the middle. Like I said before, every route concept and every alignment is meticulously woven together to ensure that the play is successful. This right here is damn good schematic design because it gives the Vikings defense very little margin for error. Ertz may only get 8 yards, sure, but it was an easy and reliable 8 yards, and that's what really matters. Peterson is just trying to inch closer to the red zone, which he does, and conveniently 2 snaps later he uses another RPO to finally break through into that red zone. That play, of course, is another variation of gun flank strong, but this time Ertz is in line instead of offset, and the Z receiver, Alshon Jeffrey, is in a tight split. The running back is once again flanking on the strong side, so the run is still going to the weak side, but now Ertz is acting as a blocker, not a receiver. That means that the primary pass option on this play is now Jeffrey on the slant. It's a 7-man box from the Vikings against 6 blockers, so Foles knows he's probably going to end up passing this ball because that's what the numbers dictate, but obviously the read is now slightly different. He's not reading the Mike linebacker on this play, he's reading Harrison Smith because Smith is the closest inside zone defender to his primary receiver. Again, it's a very similar concept, but he's just reading a different player. As Foles is reading from the mesh point, he sees Smith cheat up just a little bit to play the run in pursuit, and as soon as he sees that cheat forward, he knows the slant is there for the taking. He then pulls the ball and quickly gets rid of it to a wide open Jeffrey for another 9-yard gain to set Philly up in the red zone. I'll say it once more, the whole point of Peterson using RPOs in this new Nick Foles-led offense is to make it easier for him to get into scoring position. The 11-yard touchdown run that LeGarrette Blount got just a few snaps after this play was made possible because of RPOs. For the Eagles, RPOs are their safest, most reliable ways to get through that kind of no man's land area with a backup quarterback so that their true strengths, that being red zone efficiency and deep shot plays, can really shine. To go back to my puzzle analogy, these concepts are like the corner pieces that Peterson is starting with as his framework, and then he's building everything else out from there. So, you might be asking at this point, okay Brett, if you can see these tendencies in their RPO game, surely Bill Belichick must see them too. And well, yeah, you're completely right. I'm sure the Patriots figured out long before I did that the Eagles like to run RPOs on early downs at certain yardage markers on the field. And I'm sure they figured out already that they use the threat of the weak side zone run to pull defenders away from in-breaking routes on the strong side. So, the real question is this: knowing that the Patriots know all of that, how are they going to stop it? And the answer, believe it or not, might also come from the Vikings. After Harrison Smith got baited into cheating up against the run from that gun flank strong Z tight formation, he had an opportunity to make up for it the very next quarter, and make up for it he did. It's literally the exact same formation and the exact same play with Ertz blocking and Alshon running the slant, but this time Smith doesn't take the bait and he stays home to undercut that slant and take it away. Foles sees that Smith backs off to double the primary receiver, which means it's now technically favorable numbers to run the ball, meaning 6 blockers on 6 defenders. That's where the run part of the run-pass option comes into play. Now, Blunt only gets 2 yards here because the Vikings defensive line was able to get off their blocks and make the tackle, but that 6-on-6 blocking scheme is what the Eagles want to create on their RPOs. They either want to pressure you into playing 7-on-6 against the run, which opens up the pass, or if you double the primary receiver like the Vikings did here, they're okay with that too because it gives them favorable blocking numbers to try to get something going on the ground. The only way to really stop this play cold is to have a defensive line that can whoop all sorts of ass up front by themselves, just like Minnesota does. You essentially have to take your chances with the run game and try to win the 6-on-6 battle up front. You've got no other choice. It's risky because you need everyone to consistently get off their blocks, which is easier said than done against a really good Eagles offensive line, but honestly, if you're a defensive coordinator and you don't take that risk against the run, Foles can just chew you up with easy passes over the middle anyway. It's a no-win situation, so you either take the risk or you don't, and the Vikings' risk paid off on this play by only allowing a 2-yard gain. Among all 9 RPOs in this game, the Vikings forced a handoff against a light 6-man box 5 times. On those 5 RPO carries, the Eagles averaged just 3.2 yards per carry. Meanwhile, on their 4 RPO passes, they averaged 8.3 yards per attempt. So, what does all of that mean? Well, for starters, it means that the Vikings have a beastly defensive line that you can trust to win their one-on-one battles at the line of scrimmage. But it also means that if you want to slow down the Eagles' RPO game, you have to force them to run rather than pass. Knowing Belichick and Matt Patricia, that's exactly what I expect the Patriots to do. They're going to take away the easy passes to Ertz and Jeffrey and force Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount to beat them. Whether or not their nickel defensive front can hold up as well as the star-studded Vikings defensive line, well, I'm not sure, I guess we'll find out. But what I am sure of is that the Patriots' ability to stop the Eagles offensively will come down to how well that front 6 plays between the 20 and 40 yard lines. They need Malcolm Brown, Trey Flowers, and Kyle Van Noy to play like Linval Joseph, Everson Griffin, and Anthony Barr. If Doug Peterson's RPO game is successful in those 2 areas of the field, the Philly offense will start to snowball very quickly. Their RPOs flip field position, they give Philly more red zone opportunities, and they move the chains to increase time of possession and wear out the defense into the 4th quarter. It may not seem like it, but a lot rides on New England's ability to stop the run in a 6-on-6 situation. If they can't get off their individual blocks and dominate the line of scrimmage without a numbers advantage, they will not be able to get off the field. And if they're forced into committing that 7th body to stop those runs with Ajayi and Blunt, Ertz and Jeffrey will instantly be fed through the air. The Patriots have 0 options here. Either they stop the run with 6 guys in the box, or they will give up a boatload of points and turn this thing into a shootout. That's it. That's literally what this entire game is riding on, in my opinion, is those 6 guys in the nickel front stopping the Eagles' run game. Everything else on both sides of the ball ripples out from that one matchup. Doug Peterson is arguably the best offensive mind that the Pats have faced this year, and they're facing him in the biggest game of the year. Whether it was Carson Wentz or Nick Foles taking the field, this was always destined to be a knockdown, drag-out brawl because of the quality of coaching on both sides. Honestly, I don't know who is going to win because these teams are that evenly matched. They are both extremely talented, they both have elite coaching staffs, and they both prepare for their opponents better than anyone else in the league. I have no idea who is going to go home with the Lombardi on Sunday night. Absolutely none. But I do know this, and it's something that I believe with 100% confidence. We're gonna see a lot of wacky shit in this game. Shit that we've probably never even seen before. And I, for one, can't wait to witness how all the ridiculous, improbable, unbelievable chaos from this season comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching the final episode of the Film Room for the 2017 season. Thank you to all the new viewers and the old viewers, people that have been watching from week to week, or people that have just discovered this channel. If you're watching this before the Super Bowl, I'll tell you what, we still have a few days to take advantage of our season-long offer. So if you believe in Doug Peterson to topple the evil empire, or maybe you think that Tom Brady's going to pull yet another championship out of his ass, you still have a few days to take advantage of our Super Bowl offer with our amazing, extremely supportive sponsor, the BetDSI Sportsbook. All Film Room viewers who sign up on BetDSI.com with the promo code FILM25 will get a free $25 wager credit to use on betting the Super Bowl. Any winnings you get are completely yours to keep. You can cash them out, you can keep them to use next season as the start of your bankroll. Whatever you want to do with those winnings is completely up to you. You just have to sign up. So head on over to betdsi.com, use the promo code FILM25, go make some wagers, win some money, and then come on back next season, and if you're really good at picking games, win even more money. As for me, now that the season is over, or at least almost over, I am taking a much needed week off to go on vacation, because I'm the idiot that goes on vacation to Chicago in the middle of February. So if you guys have any restaurant recommendations, if you live there or if you know the area, send me some good steak places, some good pizza places, because I am looking for things to eat while I freeze my ass off. I've been going pretty much non-stop 60 plus hours a week on this channel since last year's Super Bowl, and I would love to get some sleep in between meals, so that's probably what I'll be doing for most of my time in Chicago. But I'll be back the week after that, of course, to start on draft coverage. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting very patiently for that. I'll be getting scouting reports out on the 2018 draft prospects all the way through to the draft in late April, and I'll have a mock draft out at some point as well, just like last year. So if you've got some requests for prospects that you want covered, feel free to drop those in the comments, along with your pizza and steak recommendations, of course. And whenever I eventually wake up or come out of my food coma, I'll check those out and figure out who my first scouting report will be on. But anyway, I'm going to go hibernate and then eat, or eat and then hibernate, whichever order makes more sense. And then I'll be back after that. So until then, later.